This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 204 of Horsemanship Radio, brought to you by Hands on Gloves, the all-in-one revolutionary bathing, grooming gloves. Horsemanship Radio is part of the family of the Horse Radio Network, and today we have Dad on. We have Monty Roberts on trail riding. This will be fun. And we have an inventor and a horse gal, April Schiel, and she's developed a new product that I think you're all going to be interested in. This is Debbie Laux, and you're listening to the Horsemanship Radio. Thanks for joining us. Horsemanship Radio airs on the 1st and the 15th of the month. And I have my producer, Jen, with me today, the Hands-on Gloves girl.
Yay! I'm glad to be back. I missed a couple of episodes because we were busily moving our lives from one locale to another. It's great to be back.
I'm glad you're here. I always feel more secure when you're here. Sorry, George, don't listen to that. But I know you know where all the buttons are, right?
A little codependency there.
It is. Terrible, I know. But we've been doing this a long time. What?
We have. I was looking.
2013?
2013. I was fooling around with the production notes. When we make a little behind the scenes here, folks, when we record podcasts, we have a bit, sort of an outline of who's going to be on and what they're going to talk about and things like that. So we're a little bit organized. And each and every podcast that is on the Horse Radio Network has its own unique formula, format that works for the particular producers and hosts that do that show. So when you've been doing the show since 2013, there are a lot of notes piled up. That's a lot of episodes, 204 as we speak.
Oh, it makes me tired. Yeah.
Makes you tired. So, and as the show has evolved and matured, the notes grow with it. So I was in the back end of all this trying to get a little bit of it organized. And since I wasn't here for the past 2 episodes, I feel like I'm lost.
Oh, you do? Oh, no. I always feel like I'm lost. So I don't know how you feel. But the technology keeps changing too. So you teach me new tricks with these, these online document
and
containers that we use.
Yes, the containers. I like how you call that the container. It's the Tupperware for podcasters.
Yeah. Hey, do you remember the little burp? You got to burp it. Okay.
Oh my gosh! Yes, you used to have to burp your Tupperware. Oh, we're aging ourselves, aren't we?
We might be. Hopefully, there's somebody else out there who remembers what that means. But I feel like I have to burp this thing every once in a while. Like I don't know if I get it quite right, but anyway.
Yes.
Hey, and speaking of kind of old-fashioned stuff and new-fashioned stuff, I think one of the oldest fun things to do on a horse is trail riding. I mean, it can't get much older than that, right?
Right.
We rode from one place to another on a horse. And then when we brought him in, so that's going to be part of our story today. When we brought him in and we started to put walls around them and shoes on their feet and, made them all domesticated like, we had the next problem, which was bedding. And bedding is the other side of our equation today. So we're kind of going retro today, Jen. What do you think?
That's interesting. We're going to be talking about solving issues that we have created with modern horse keeping that involve bedding, and there are many, and problems that we have created through domestication in that we and our horses do not get to enjoy the riding in the riding in nature experience. And we're talking about both of those things. Oh, I like that. Cool. Good segue for you.
All right. Good for you. Now.
Yeah. Now, new segue. My turn.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Good.
Our title sponsor today, Hands on Gloves.
Yes.
Can I share a Hands on Gloves story?
What's Scooter been up to?
You knew who it was.
Maybe.
Scooter, our Hackney pony, who is a Florida native. Let me prerequisite that. Right. He's lived his life in Florida, yet he honors his Hackney pony genetics with a coat that would make a grizzly bear proud.
Is he? Is he all fluffy? Oh,
he's a seriously fluffy pony in the wintertime. Previous years, we would clip him several times a winter, or if, at the very least in the springtime, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we did not clip him this year. Things were crazy. We just left him go au natural. So he's got the woolly bear caterpillar coat that needs to come out, and it wants to come out, let me tell you. And I am so loving the hands-on gloves for so many reasons. First, there's one for each hand.
Yes. Good point.
So I can half my grooming time because I can use both hands at the same time.
100%.
100%. Number two, Scooter loves being brushed on both sides at the same time because he's little. He's only 12 hands.
That's so cute.
So you can scrub both sides of the pony at the same time. And when springtime is here and they're super itchy, they want nothing more than to be scratched vigorously from ears to hoof, right? So I can get on both sides of his neck and both sides of his belly and both sides of his withers at the same time. His little eyeballs roll back in the back of his head and his little lips go.
I love that. And hands-on, those little nubby things are so great on hands-on. They don't fall off. You know how these old ones cracked and
they crack and they don't fall off. And the way they're dispersed that makes them effective. But when all you have to do is you groom, and then you take your hand and you kind of wave it around a little bit, and the hair just falls out of them. I hate having to beat the curry combs on the ground and use a hoof pick to get the hair out. It's more work getting the hair out of the curry comb than getting it into the curry comb.
That's true.
There you go. So hands-on gloves. Where can people find hands-on gloves, Debbie?
Oh, well, you know where I find them all the time is in my mailbox. I order them and I get them shipped here. But yeah, go to handsongloves.com. The whole, just one thing, no dots, no nothing. Handsongloves.com. And also follow them on Facebook. They really have a neat little Facebook page too. It's a lot of fun.
Great place to share grooming pictures.
Yeah, it is.
So enough about grooming horses. Let's talk a little bit with our first guest about keeping your barn clean, because that's important too.
April Schiel, the creator of the bedding blocker, is a healthcare professional who works as a dual certified registered nurse and a paramedic in her home state of Pennsylvania. When she's not working at night shift, April works as an animal control officer and volunteers with several animal rescue groups. Along with her husband, Chris, she owns and manages a small boarding facility, which they designed from the ground up in 2016. Well, welcome, April Schiel. I'm so glad to have you on Horsemanship Radio. Where are you hailing from today?
I am from the thriving metropolis of Zionsville, Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah. People go through there all the time, right? Oh, no, I'm glad. That's a real horse girl right there. But we've already introduced you as a healthcare professional. We know you're a registered nurse, very professional person. But the creator of the bedding blocker is what we wanted to talk about today. What a clever girl. And we're always trying to figure out ways, to pay for our horses. So I wanted to share you with everybody, and people can relate to you, I am sure. But I want you to tell us a little bit about your horsey background so we get to know you a little bit in the horse side.
Sure. Yeah, it started out, and I'm going to make this the abridged version. When I was 11, yeah, it's a long story. When I was 11, I wrote a letter to a farm down the street from my dad's house asking if I could come and pet the horses, which didn't please my mother because she didn't want to do riding lessons or have me do anything with horses. And I developed a friendship with these people that had a small Arab farm, and they basically adopted me as their daughter. I told them I was going to have a horse farm someday, and they kind of laughed. And now here we are several years later, and I have my own little piece of heaven here in Zionsville. So yeah, I did some time at a show farm, at an Arabian farm in New Jersey right after high school. It wasn't quite for me, so I went into healthcare full time and just have horses as a fun hobby.
Well, that's great. And you talked a guy into it, Chris, too, right? Your husband?
That's an exaggeration. I wouldn't say I talked him into it. He was just kind of along for the ride. But yeah, that's my husband. I've known him a little over 15 years, so he knew what he was getting into when he married me.
That's great. No, there's nothing like a good horse husband. But is he also a horse guy? Did he grow up with horses?
No, not at all. He is somewhat afraid of them. We call him the maintenance man here because he'll fix fence and he'll mow the lawn, but touching the horses and handling and cleaning stalls, not so much his gig.
Not so much his gig. Well, was he involved in creating this bedding blocker we're going to talk about?
He was. I need to give him a little more credit than I do, I guess.
Okay.
Do you want to get into how I started it? What my first prototype
Yes.
is? That was really his idea.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so
Yes.
we built we didn't build it. We had a small, it's a 4-stall barn built, and my stalls lead right out to paddock, which leads out to pasture. So for the first year that we were here, I was watching my horses just walk in and out and drag bedding out, drag mud in, and it was just this constant battle of, oh, how do I keep this in? So we put a little 2x4 in the threshold there, on the exterior threshold, and my horse, who's now 31, would always nick his legs, and he'd get bloody legs. It was awful. So we took those out. And he says, well, what if we put a push broom? We drill a push broom head into the threshold in the concrete. I said, that's a dumb idea. Let's try it. So we tried it, and the push broom was somewhat effective, but the bristles aren't really meant to last. So, every month or two we were replacing them to the point where it just got to be like, why even bother? And then it was one of those days I walked out and I thought, what if we invent something that would be more effective, would last longer, and would look nicer to put there? I'm not a creative person. I'm not an inventor. It just kind of blossomed from that. And I did some Googling to see if there was anything on the market like it, and there wasn't. I ended up reaching out on Facebook to see if anyone knew of a developer or somebody that could help me with this idea. And sure enough, there's a company basically in my backyard that took my project on. Yeah, it all happened very quickly, but then it was like, hurry up and wait. Brilliant idea. I got the okay from the developer, manufacturer to help me with it. And then I had to raise funds, and then I had to wait. And then COVID hit, everything shut down. And 4 years later, here we are.
Oh, it was 4 years ago. Okay, because you did launch
last 4 years.
summer, right?
Yeah, we launched in August of last summer, August of 2021, when we officially went online and started advertising it and getting it out to social media. So, yeah.
So do you think, you really are in your first iterations, and I just love this, and I hope you have it trademarked or something. I don't know how you protect it, but it's such a great idea. And probably the protection is the fact that you've had to go through so many different versions of it to keep it in. But what intrigued me about it too is we're working in our facility and like good ideas, first of all, anyway, but also shavings. It's getting so hard to source, first of all. They're expensive. They've gone up, I don't know, maybe ours might have gone up 15-20% in the last year. And so this is like self-defense, right?
Yeah, I've noticed the price of my shavings has gone up significantly too, even in the last 3 or 4 months. $1 or $2 a bag it adds up. So the more the more I can save in my barn, then the more I know people are going to save in theirs as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so tell me about the reduction of loss on this too, because that's one of the things that I was looking at. Because we have some walkouts that are up against wood chips on the outside and shavings on the inside. And so pretty soon it's a lot of wood chips mixed with a lot of shavings because they, mix them, right? And I imagine that happens with any kind of walkout or even hallways. Our muckers are not always the best to put them back in the stall. Sometimes they end up in the, in the wagon. So, yeah. Have you tracked how much you're saving by not having them knocked out of the stall?
No, I have not. And here's why. My barn is 3 horses on one side, 2 on the other. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to do an actual study with a control group to say, okay, well, this stall was this much loss. This stall was not, because I had the bedding blocker. As much as I want to say, oh yeah, I saved 77%, I can't say that in good conscience because I have not been able to do a comparison.
Honestly,
I will tell you, when I was doing my prototypes, I had one stall without one and one stall with, and immediately you could see the huge difference in kicking the shavings out. Nothing's going to be 100%. You're not going to get 100% blockage with these, but it is a significant reduction in how much is dragged out. And that's regardless if it's on an exterior threshold or interior. I have customers that have them on their interior to keep the aisles a little cleaner, and I have ones that have them on the exterior to keep, the mud from being dragged in and the bedding from being dragged out.
Nice. Yeah, that's exactly. We've got both situations. I want to be your control place. I want to do a science trial here with you because I think
okay.
yeah, let's do it because we've got the walkouts, we've got the traditional stall, and we also have some non-traditional covered areas going out into trails. So I'm kind of considering all of that. And you and I have talked a little bit about sizing it. And I know, I don't want you to start custom making now that you've just started your making, but I am curious about that. So, and one of the other things that intrigued me too is that you said you repurpose them too. When do you repurpose them? Like, is there a wear and tear length of time that you've seen, experienced?
Well, I have one that I pulled out from my very first prototype, and it's a slightly different size brush component, but it's a scratching post, basically. So I took my entire system and I just drilled it into the side so my horses have a nice long scratching post with bristles. So that's one way we repurpose them. The other way that we found is a bird landing deterrent.
Yeah.
So above each of my, it's interesting. I found this out by mistake. That's how most great things are found out, right? I was watching these birds perch right over, of course, my horse's water bucket, and they, do their business over the bucket. So I thought, when I have a little piece of a bedding blocker that I had cut to fit, because you can cut all the components of it. You can cut them to fit your threshold. So I took that little piece, it was about 4 inches long, and I put it above his water bucket on the rafter. Birds don't land there.
Yay.
Problem solved. So that's one way you can repurpose them. And the brushes do last a long time. We've been selling since August, and I have not had any orders for replacement brushes yet. I have had to replace mine because they're 4 years old. Mm-hmm. But when you do have to replace them, that's where we recommend, don't just throw them away. They're still useful as bird landing deterrents. They're still useful as scratching posts. And I'm sure someone along the way will say, I also use it for this, for different features. So, less wasteful.
Yeah, well, that's us, right? Horse people, we use everything, so we try to anyway. I'm curious too about. So you said push broom, and we're imagining in our minds now maybe 3 inches across and maybe 36 inches wide, depending on the push broom. But it's narrower than that, right? It's more like a hairstyle up there, or something.
Yes. Yes, but what we found with the push broom versus the brush is if it's too wide, too much bedding gets stuck in it. So we had to go a little higher up. We settled on, after many prototypes, 6 inches of height for the brush. We found that it doesn't cause a trip hazard at that height. It prevents the bedding from leaving the stall, and it doesn't get as much bedding in the bristles themselves. And when it's too wide, it was too much of a mess to clean them out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Why? Yeah, another problem to have actually. And 6 inches, is that because visually our horses look down and will sort of pick their feet up a little bit more than if it was just a comb down there?
Yeah, the 6 inches is really just something we settled on. I have no exciting data for that other than 4 inches wasn't high enough and 8 inches was too high.
There you go. Okay.
That was it. It was very scientific adventure.
Yeah. Now tell me about your horses. Do they have different personalities? Do different things with them? Do they look at them funny at first? Is there any, like getting used to them when they first get them?
We have a mini donkey here at the farm, and when he first saw them, he would jump over them.
Oh, yeah.
My horse it was adorable. My horse just kind of looks at it and was like, okay, I'll just step over this. Most of them, they look at it for half a second. Some of them will try to eat it and realize it's not food. Oh. Some of them will step on it. I have one mare that just looks at me and goes, "You mean like this?" and puts her foot on it and just lets it sit there. I'm like, okay, I have some pictures of that. And the cool thing is they bounce right back. So if they step on them or they walk on them or paw at them, they bounce right back. So yeah, our horses are kind of a mixed group here. Yeah. The mini donkey jumping over that was cute to watch.
Is he still? Because they're pretty smart, don't they?
He does not. No, he doesn't care. He just walks right through it or over it. He's fine now.
I love it. Okay, do they come in different colors or any options like that we have to know about?
Not yet. I am actually talking to one of my suppliers about doing different color brushes. And it is possible I can have basically any color I want. It's just deciding on which one people would want the most.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we just have black. I was debating on gray, maybe a red, like a brick color, but I really don't know what I want to do with that as far as colors yet. But yes, it is definitely a consideration.
Okay. So for people who are curious, how do they get a hold of you, and how do they, where they find you?
We are all over social media at Bedding Blocker. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is Bedding Blocker. You can also check out the website at beddingblocker.com.
Right. And
or
any
you
phone numbers?
can,
Are there phone numbers on there or anything?
Yep. My business line is 610-822-2562. My email is info@beddingblocker.com. You can also fill out a contact request on the website directly. Whatever is easier for the customer.
That's what I did. And tracked you down.
Yes.
Yeah. Girlfriend Nellie told me about you and said, hey, this might be, my high-pitched whining about the cost, I think, of bedding was driving me crazy. Plus, I just kind of like it neater a little bit with different materials on the outside from the inside, and hallways and blocking doorways. The shavings just get so thick. And I'm trying to reduce shavings anyway. We're putting in some different floor matting and different ideas to reduce that air quality, frankly, that shavings can do. So if I can reduce the shavings from that and also create that, if I have that bit of a slick surface there, I'm thinking that they'll go outside and pee more, but this is just, I'll do a science trial on that too. But also just to have enough shavings on there to have it absorb. But if I can deter it from bouncing out the doors, I think I'll be better off anyway. So I love your product, and I'm so happy to talk to you. And you're very descriptive and good, and I'd love to have you back. Would you come back?
Oh, I would love to come back anytime.
All right.
I like to talk.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you're a good nurse too, I bet. So thank you for taking care of us. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Oh, it's my pleasure.
Hi, Debbie. I just had to write and tell you how much I'm enjoying Monty's podcast on Horsemanship Radio. You and Monty and your podcast guests are my company every evening while I'm feeding, cleaning, and finishing up barn chores for the day. I especially enjoyed the recent podcast 158 because so many of the guys that Monty talked about, and especially Greg Ward, were heroes of mine when I was growing up. It was really fun to be a fly on the wall listening to Monty recount all those stories. And I also enjoyed his discussion with Tanya Johnston about the deer and thigmotaxis. Thanks for all the great information you and your dad are spreading throughout the world. And thanks for making the time doing my barn chores no chore at all. All the best, Nan Meek.
Monty Roberts, known as the man who listens to horses, has led an extraordinary life. He is an award-winning trainer of championships horses and a New York Times best-selling author. He's been a Hollywood stuntman and foster dad to 47 children, in addition to 3 of his own. I know this for a fact. And creator of the world-renowned and revolutionary equine training technique called Join Up, a gentle way to cause a horse to accept his first saddle and rider in about 30 minutes. Over 70 years ago, Monty discovered he could utilize the nonverbal communication that goes on between horses. This changed everything for him about working with horses. Well, welcome. We have Monty Roberts back. Hi, Dad.
Hello. How you doing?
Good. I'm getting excited here at Flag Us Up because as we speak on this date, we're early in March yet, we are preparing a portion of the farm to be transformed, I think would be the word, from a 1D area that's beautifully, natural and feeds the deer and is a pretty quiet area of the farm. It's going to be transformed into a mountain trail experience, and the deer can still be there. But so I wanted to have you on to talk a little bit about trail? Why trail? What's the history of trail? And and how it engages so many different disciplines and horses in different ways.
Yeah, that'll be fun for me. I've had a thought. I've only known for a couple of hours or so that I was going to do this, but my brain has just been ticking away because the more I think about it, the more interesting it becomes. And I certainly wouldn't be talking about this if it caused my precious deer to be disengaged from their property in any way, and it doesn't. But I would like to take you back to 1941 when Pearl Harbor was bombed, and we were in the Second World War, and the horse shows took on a very different personality. And that is that in 1941, I was only 6 years old, but I was already showing horses for 2 years. I showed my first horse when I was 4. And the first horse I showed was in Western stock horse, if you can believe. Cantering, stopping, spinning, backing up at the age of 4. And what else happened at a horse show in those days? Not much else happened at a horse show in those days. Through the 1930s, there were gaited horses and there were jumpers and there were hunters, but the Western was Western equitation and Western pleasure and a little bit of this thing called the trail horse.
Okay.
And a trail horse class was really not a trail horse class at all. It fit into coliseums and horse show rings, and it was a few obstacles that you went through, and the better the horse did it, the higher the score. After 1941, something really happened, and that meant that a lot of horse shows were canceled. And they moved slightly outward to ranches and farms and things, and natural horse trail classes began to occur. And I thought they were fun, so I had some horses that could do these things pretty well. And it became a kind of a popular thing to have these meadow or foothill trail classes. Not mountain trail classes, because then they couldn't happen unless you had mountains. So they had them in meadows and foothills, mostly. And sometimes you had to go over a little jump, and sometimes you had to back through a narrow hallway and things like that. But what was happening was that anybody could do it with any kind of saddle and any kind of background of horsemanship at all, and the better you did it, the higher the score. All through until about 1946, when the American Horse Shows Association took over, and they started to base their contests on horse show rings and not meadows and foothills and things like that. But because the war had made us interested in the trail classes, they brought a trail class into the horse show rings. And as it went along comes the American Quarter Horse Association, where you had to ride a horse through a specific set of obstacles, and those obstacles had to be the same right across this country, from New York to San Diego or Los Angeles. They had to be the same, and they were done with barrels, oil barrels, and poles, and gates. You had to open a gate and close the gate, go over the poles, and then you had to start a procedure of, it was called a Western riding class.
Oh, okay.
And that's sort of silly. Western riding class. What is Western riding class? You're riding a Western saddle, but the Quarter Horse Association had it become a Western saddle class. And you rode over these poles after opening and closing the gate. And then you began a situation where you walked, trot, and cantered, and you changed leads on a S-shaped particular course that was outlined for you, the same in every town. And then you had to change on the straight. Bingity, bingity, bing, about 4 strides left lead. Bingity, bingity, bing, about 4 strides right lead. and you had to go 2 straight lines changing leads. Okay. And I had never done that one because now, after the war, I was in the big time, man. I was in the cutting and rein cow horse, and I was show jumping, and I was riding gaited horses. And it was, the Western riding class was for ladies and gentlemen of a certain age, and they went in a very demure way through this already outlined course. And then it began to change. About in 1966 or 67, I heard about the mountain trail course. And they had these things connected with, oftentimes, these rides of a nature whereby you rode 20 miles and things like that, endurance things. And at the end of it, they had a mountain trail course. And people of a certain mentality started to think up things to do with mountain trail courses. And these became very intricate. I mean, you had to go across swinging bridges. You had to back over things. You had to walk through water. You had to do all sorts of things. And they didn't stay the same. They started putting them in areas, not coliseums and horseshoe rings, but in areas that were more commensurate with the foothills or the mountains, in fact, almost like mountain cliffs and stuff that they would build. And now Debbie, my daughter, who is on this line, got interested in that. Why? Because there were a lot of people that wanted to do this. And the lady of a certain age and the gentleman of the certain age could get interested in this, and with a little effort, they could train their horse to do these crazy things as well as the, consummate trainer could do. And that became exciting to a lot of people. And so the entries began to climb and climb and climb in numbers. And now all over the United States, the mountain trail courses are becoming very popular. And along comes my daughter and says, I want one in the infield of your racetrack. And they only cost a couple of $100,000 to build. Whatever. They are very, very involved. And they do have different elevations. They have different requests that you make of a horse. And they are not consistent in that they are the exact same thing in Denver as they are in Los Angeles or Dallas, Texas. They have variations. And some of these guys that have started to make these are very intelligent people who've come up with the wildest ideas. And then you say, well, a horse can't even do that. And danged if they don't show up at 65 years of age and just, ride like a pleasure rider would, but their horse has been trained by them to do these things, and they go very quietly, and they think their way through. Oh, horses aren't that intelligent. Get a hold of yourself. The intelligence of these horses is just unbelievable, how they will settle down step by step and go through these things. It's very intriguing. And for someone that won 11 world championships in these other events that are so popular and so important, looks in awe at the mountain trail classes. And so you guys are going to have one right in my infield.
Yeah, the whole thing is built. Well, they built the obstacles in Washington State just because that's where all the wood is, apparently. But those were shipped down and they're in the infield right now. But here's what we're bringing in: logs and rocks and a lake. And we have a liner and gravel and all these things. So we are literally bringing the mountain to the infield. But it's, I think the transformation that's pretty cool for the horses is that each element or each obstacle has its levels. And a good trainer is going to help that horse in hand. Maybe we start in hand for those transition horses that are 2, 3, 4 off the track. We're also going to have then the elementary approach to the obstacle. Maybe it's a suspension bridge that you get your horse hopefully cause to want to cross the suspension bridge. But then there's the more advanced levels as your horse relaxes or as they train you to understand the obstacles better. Then there is stop at the middle of the suspension bridge, do a 360 and keep on going, or do a 180 and go back the other way. There's different levels. Go off the side. I'm not sure about that one, but there's these different levels, and that way the competitions that we're going to have here, which will be really fun, will have the different levels, the different age groups, the different variety of horses, the different saddles. I don't care what saddle they have. Do you?
I don't care at all. And I saw videos of a guy that was, I'm sure, very competent, ride halfway across the suspension bridge forward and then stop and reverse the horse over the same part of the extension bridge that he just traveled in a forward motion. Unbelievable. Nobody would believe that a horse could do that. But this horse did, and he would look back. You could see him looking back to place his foot in the right place. It's quite extraordinary, really.
What do you think makes the difference? Did he just find the most unique unicorn horse out there, or did he train for that? And what do you think made the difference?
Well, I think the guy made the difference, but I do think that he found a horse that was up to that and had the kind of thinking mind that a horse would require to do it. Just like any other event, really, you find the best horse, you win the most championships. But and this doesn't have to be competitive. It really doesn't. It can be so much fun to just watch your horse learn and do these things just for your own pleasure, not necessarily a competitive thing.
Right. What do you think about the in-hand? Were they back in 1941 when they started? Did they imagine the in-hand?
No, never thought about it at all. The only thing they did in hand then was to single line lunge, which was destructive to horses.
But on the trails, though, were people out there walking the trails?
Well, there's no question that I rode on trails in the mountains, the Sierras here in California, where people would get off and have their horse on about a 20-foot lead, and then they would go across a stream and then lead their horse across the stream from 20 feet away, and the horse would leap across the stream and then plow into the water, and they didn't want to ride the horse through that thing. So, but today, you would stop and maybe lead them over, and then lead them again until they placed one foot down and pretty soon relaxed and walked across it. And then you could get on and ride them across. So it evolves into an educational process whereby the horse understands what they're to do. And I tell you that the horses come a lot closer to what dogs can learn. And you see some of these dogs in these obstacle
agility
things. Yeah, agility drills. That's what they do to think it through, you know. Well, horses can come close to that. I didn't believe it until recently, and I saw videos of these horses really thinking through the mountain trail courses, and it's quite extraordinary.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. Our designer's name is Mark Bolander, and he is designing these courses around the nation, although they're very rare still. And so people do come from a long way away to be able to use them or compete on them, whatever their interest is. But there are no others in California, which is pretty exciting that we finally got one here in horse country too. I think Mark he's a great combination of engineer. He does own a building company, a contracting company, and a horse person that came on later in life with horses. And he even has a Breyer horse. His horse Checkers will be here with us in June, and Mark will come back and do a clinic in June. So I'm excited about that. But I'm really excited about a train the trainers and allowing people in this local area to come in and train under him so they're qualified to use the trail and teach those too. What do you think makes a good trail trainer?
Well, I think anything that you train for has about the same kind of person that becomes a great trainer. And that's the one that can cause the horse to want to do it and not force the horse to do it. Forcing the horse to do it is gone. Those people will lose, and the ones that cause the horse to want to are winning. And if you look at what's happening in the various disciplines of our world, it's the horses that have followed a lot of my concepts. Show jumping people, there's some of the biggest in the world now, are saying violence isn't the answer. And just to force a horse to go across the mountain trail thing is wrong, and they won't learn as well. It's the guy that causes the horse, or lady, that causes the horse to want to do it. And that's the slowing down process and letting the horse think it through and then gain something for doing the thing. It's a process of education for my certified instructors, but once it happens, think about it. I went to Germany for a horse called Lomitas, who was going to be put down because he was trying to kill people and wouldn't go in the starting gate, and they couldn't race him anymore. And I worked with him 10 days, and he went in and won and became Horse of the Year and produced a Horse of the Year. And the 3 generations after him earned $50 million on the racetracks. And that was simply a way to take the old world of violence and force. That horse has to know who's boss. Take that all out of it and cause the horse to want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And the observational skills that you have are surpassed by no one. I don't think there's any question about that. So if you are going to impart, and I know you are going to do this with your certified instructors too, impart some of the ways to look at a trail and the outcomes for them teaching trail, what would you say to the certified instructor that says, but this horse will never cross water. He's always been phobically afraid of water, or this horse is, afraid of where he puts his feet when it comes to rocks, or I don't know, what there's definitely phobias. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's horses, Debbie, that won't walk over a tarpaulin.
Right.
And yet I went all over the world and I did the lake and stream demonstration. And the lake and stream is a very large tarpaulin in a round pen. Yeah. So that leaves a moat around of about 6 or 8 feet that the horse has to stay on because he won't put his foot on the tarpaulin. And then you have a little stream, and that's a rolled up tarpaulin, and it's only about 6 inches, and he starts to jump over it. And then gradually you open that up and he jumps over it, and pretty soon it's 10 feet wide and he can't jump over it. So he puts his foot on it, and then it doesn't kill him. And in a 30-minute demonstration, 100% of the horses brought to me with that phobia were then following me without a lead on, following me across the lake in the middle with no force whatsoever. Right. And people would just sit with their mouths open.
Right.
But
or cry. I've seen it.
Or cry. But you have to allow your core to diaphragmatically breathe so that they know you're not anxious, you're not fighting, you're not forcing them to do anything. You are watching carefully to what they learn and then rewarding them for the thing that they learn. It's so much fun to do it that way.
Yeah.
And pretty soon your body can't see it any other way.
I suppose that's what you're getting to that's, I guess, the ethereal position you want to get to by end of life, is that being able to achieve that. The word I was thinking you were going to say too is incremental, because even though it's 30 minutes, you give that horse a chance to put a foot on, but then do you make him go across? Now he's touched it and he knows it doesn't kill him? Or do you back him off and say, that was great, but let's try that again?
Yeah, the rub between the eyes, standing him in the moat, and then turning him around and looking back at that little stream, and then you walk over the stream, and be careful because he might jump it, but then he comes across, and you rub him again, and you go back and forth, and pretty soon he says, if you can do it, I can do it. Mm-hmm. And he follows you. It's absolutely, and then the joy of watching a horse learn instead of watching a horse do it because they're made to. The joy of that is just overwhelming.
Watching them overcome that. Now, let's also add a pony horse or an anchor to the situation. What do you think?
Well, yeah, now you're making it really easy, because if you put an older horse in there that will walk over the tarpaulin and have him go in front, it happens in no time at all. And they will mold to another horse quicker than they'll mold to the human. But I never did that in my demonstrations. I did it myself. But one thing I do, like for a head shy horse, is I get on another horse that they are accustomed to, and then bring them up and then move to their ears from the back of another horse. And nobody ever twisted their ears when they were sitting on another horse. So they let you do it right away. And then you gradually step off the horse or bring another person in, and gradually you show them that you don't have to hurt them when you go up and touch their ears. And I've won some bets that you can't believe on that score. But anyway, it's just so much fun. And at 87 years of age, I'm still having so much fun watching the horses learn instead of forcing the horses to learn. And when I see it with people, it's even more gratifying than seeing it with the horses, because every person then does it with the next 100 horses or something.
Exactly.
And and the whirlwind broadens,
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm looking at this little bit of a drawing. It's not the final one, but there's things on this called Texas two-step and balance beam and teeter-totter and rolling bridge. That's an exciting one. And swinging bridge, suspension bridge. There's a trestle bridge. There's boxes. There's not only that big pond that we talked about, but there's also water boxes to walk through, cross logs. Cross bucks is another one where they're up and down and up and down. Rock scatters, step-ups, mazes. Oh my gosh, we have found many, many ways to train or torture, however you look at it.
Yeah, and you have to keep that word incremental very close to you when you start these things, because, for instance, the swinging bridge. I've watched him go across the bridge on a video that was absolutely swinging like you can't believe. And that horse was just waiting until it stopped, and then take another step, and then wait till it stops, take another step. And that didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen without the bridge only moving a little bit at first, and then a little more, and a little more, and a little more. It's absolutely incredible what incremental training will do for you. And a lot of people who are traditional in their thoughts will say, well, I don't have time for all of that. So they'll take 6 months to get a horse to do it. And in 6 minutes, you might get the horse to do it when you do it incrementally.
Exactly. Well, I hope people will take that to heart, go home and practice, and then come visit us and come see our huge mountain trail course. It'll be really fun. Yeah. Well, thanks. Thanks for sharing a little history of trail and also your training via radio of trail obstacles. Yeah. And I thank you for sharing not only the mountain trail land with us, but also with the deer.
Yeah. And I have a group of students waiting for me to talk to them right now. So I'll leave you, Debbie, but invite everybody to come. The gate says visitors welcome.
Mean it. Thank you.
Whisper the language of the herd. Listen, you don't have to say a word.
It's time for Jamie Jennings to fetch an email from Monty Roberts' inbox and share a morsel of Monty's wisdom in a little segment we like to call Ask Monty.
Leave this world a better place than mine. The magic in the language of the herd.
Dear Monty, I have a 7-year-old quarter horse gelding that is a cribber. What should I do to get him to stop this? And second, will the other horses in my barn learn this bad habit from him? Monty's answer. Cribbing, or crib biting, is also called wind sucking and a few other colloquial names. It is a habit generally thought to be motivated by boredom. I've never seen a Mustang in the wild cribbing. Many of the old books will classify cribbing as a stable vice. This seems to be valid since it generally occurs where horses are kept in small confined spaces. A cure for cribbing has been sought for many, many decades. There are stories about trainers who use rather harsh techniques in an attempt to correct the habit of cribbing through training. I have never heard of the discovery of a successful system of training any horse not to crib. I believe that once the habit begins, it is with the horse for life. In recent years, certain veterinary colleges have studied and perfected a surgical technique that has been effective in about 85% of the cases treated. I've personally seen many horses that were corrected through this surgery and found that they were unable to collapse the pharynx and gulp air into the stomach. The University of Kentucky did an experiment in the 1960s and 1970s on whether or not one horse could learn to crib from one another. As I recall, their findings suggest that there is some learned habituation from one horse to another.
For more of these insights into good horsemanship, go to MontyRoberts.com and click on the words Ask Monty at the bottom of the page.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
Where in the world is Monty Roberts?
Monty is looking forward to meeting some new friends, two-legged and four-legged, in April. April, right away, we have the April 4th through 8th, the introductory exams, and then April 9th, we have a Horsemanship 101. And then April 22 through 24, we have Horse Sense and Healing for our veterans with post-traumatic stress and first responders as well. Then April 25 through 29, we have the Gentling Wild Horses course. That's 5 days. And then in May, we have May 2 through 13, we have our advanced exams where we bring our instructor Denise Heinlein over from Germany. And it's always so amazing to see all those people on campus. Can't sign up for that until you've done everything else before. So get started on that intro course if you want to be certified. And then in May 16 through June 3, we have the advanced course. And that's what I want all of you to focus on if you want to become certified. And then in June, we have the 17th through the 19th is the movement. And this is going to be so much fun. It's our 5th anniversary. The first 2 days of that, 17 and 18, are clinician format and very intimate kind of VIP feeling to that. That's go to MontyRoberts.com and click on the tab that says the movement. And then on the third day, we have a special variation on that. That variation is that we'll have private sessions with amazing people. And we've been announcing that all along. So go on that website and look and see who's coming in June. Then June 20 through 21, so the 2 days after that, the Monday and Tuesday, June 20 through 21, we'll have a mountain trail clinic with Mark Bollinger, who is famous for building these mountain trails. And we have built a new mountain trail on the infield of the Flag is Up Farms racetrack. We're real excited about it. Actually, as we speak, I'm all dusty from coming in from the infield where we're building it right now as we speak. I hope they're all okay down there.
There we go. So this begs the question, the mountain trail course that is going into the infield of the training track at Flag is Up Farms.
I'm so excited.
Yay! For the clinic, is the clinic going to be open for people to bring their own horses?
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad you asked about the clinic because we haven't talked much about that. We've talked so much about the Train the Trainers we have going on this Saturday in March. But since you're listening to this maybe in April or May, you might still be able to get into this. June 20 is he starts the clinic the first day with in hand. So if you want to bring your own horse, great. But he starts everybody in hand. And then we also have transition horses here, which are off the track thoroughbreds or other horses that we've brought from adoption centers through the Right Horse Initiative. And that means we're just chilling them out and retraining on them. And those horses are available for in hand as well. Not the riding probably because that would be a hard suit. But if you needed a horse, you can use them in hand that way. And it's good for our transition horses too. The 21st, he will have assessed you on the 20th. And on the 21st then, those people who brought their horse to ride, maybe they even get on the first day, I'm not sure. But on the second day for sure, they'll be under saddle and advancing depending on the level of the rider and horse.
Cool. So check that out. If all of those dates, further information on how each course works, what it covers, if there are prerequisites required, all of that can be found at montyroberts.com. Is that right?
That's correct. Thanks.
Dun, dun, and for information about today's show, you're going to go to horsemanshipradio.com, where you're going to find links, photos, and more information about today's guests and topics. And as always, we love your feedback. Great place to give that to us is on social media. On Facebook, it's Monty Roberts, the one with the little blue check mark. On Twitter and Instagram, it's Monty_Roberts. Yes, he is in all those places. Many thanks to our sponsors today. Hands on Gloves, the way to groom your horse in half the time, because you can use both hands at the same time.
Right. Yes, you do. Yes. And Monty Roberts University. That has always been our reason for being. And the way we started this podcast was to let people know that Monty's concepts are out there and ready to be learned in little bite-sized pieces. We hope you get interested by going to MontyRobertsUniversity.com. And then you get so good with your horse, you want to be certified and come take horses here too, because we love meeting people from all over the world. So be sure to visit the other great shows, too, on the Horse Radio Network at www.horseradionetwork.com. Until next time, have many happy horse hours.